The idea of alien races living somewhere out there in space has been a popular fringe theory since the 1800s. Yet even before then, there were legends of visitors from space, some friendly and some not. The concept of aliens living on planets around distant stars was not popular at all due to the belief that Earth was the only planet with life. Then, in the late 1800s, astronomers saw lines on the planet Mars. Some concluded these were canals built to transport water from the poles to Martians living in Mars's equatorial region. The idea that aliens could be living on Mars or Venus gained in popularity. In 1898, H.G. Wells published his book War of the Worlds about Martians invading Earth. In 1938, Orson Welles broadcast his radio version of War of the Worlds, where he played a news reporter that was witnessing an actual alien invasion. The show was so convincing that many people thought the invasion was real, and a national panic ensued. In July 1947, a private pilot flying in Washington state reported seeing multiple airships that he described as saucer-shaped. This was widely reported in the news as flying saucers, which popularized that term for UFOs. Days later, the Roswell incident occurred, which was briefly reported as extraterrestrial, but soon after the military claimed it was a weather balloon. Then, in 1952, Washington, D.C. experienced 2 weeks of UFOs, and national headlines reported these as unknown UFOs. The U.S. government publicly promised to investigate the true nature of these incidents and future incidents by forming organizations such as Project Blue Book. Yet recent revelations show that these organizations were really trying to debunk any evidence of UFOs. Hollywood took advantage with low-budget, poorly made horror films about alien invasions, which aided skepticism of the UFO reality by ridiculing it. In 1966, Star Trek tried to teach us that extraterrestrials weren't necessarily bad guys and could even be our friends. Star Wars told us there were some ETs living in a galaxy far, far away, and some even look human. But these were just entertainment. The bulk of society still viewed ETs as Hollywood subject matter and not something real. Anyone who thought they were real were on the fringe and not to be taken seriously. But now the pendulum has swung. The government and Hollywood are no longer trying to influence us to treat UFOs and ETs as entertainment only. More and more people believe that ETs are probably visiting Earth. We even have such a high caliber of witnesses and evidence of ETs on Earth that it can no longer be considered fringe and needs to be considered a very real possibility. The situation is building to a point where these realities will finally be admitted to by those who have known for a long time. That day is not very long from now, and it is referred to as disclosure.
Hello. You might think talking about ETs and UFOs is a fun, lighthearted subject, but this is a very serious video. The world is currently going through a shift in awareness and attitude toward ETs and UFOs. This shift is impacting your awareness too, and your mind may not be ready for these new truths that were once considered fringe and fantasy. For the past several decades, the world has been going through what whistleblowers and experts are calling incremental disclosure, the controlled release of more and more information confirming the existence of an ET presence on Earth. The world powers are fully aware of the impact full disclosure will have on society, and so they have carefully planned out and controlled this gradual acknowledgement of true reality as opposed to their media-controlled reality. This new government strategy has caused mass media to shift from ridiculing the UFO phenomenon to taking it seriously. You have been the victim of this manipulation. We all have. And you may still hold on to opinions that perceive the existence of UFOs and ETs as comical. So when a video like this comes out, your first instinct may be to laugh at it. But make no mistake, the evidence and momentum are growing toward full disclosure, and people who aren't ready for that massive change will be the most vulnerable from whatever the next controlled manipulation will be. This message is critical for atheists and theists. Atheists need to know that whatever happens, there is a real spiritual side to existence that may get overlooked when disclosure happens. Theists need to be aware that there will be a flood of opinions on social media saying that ETs are devils and it's the end of the world. Perhaps. But this channel and my book, Christian Pursuit, are trying to witness to a correct path of addressing these kinds of challenges to our faith. I make it clear at the end of this video, but I will say it now too. A mature Christian will only make conclusions when the proper evidence is available. The ETs may first appear as friends, and that is not the time to call them devils. But if there is an indication of evil origin, then at the end of this video I will explain the specific decision points in which it will be appropriate to make those conclusions. To do so prematurely will exhibit an immature spiritual attitude, and that is not what this channel and Christian Pursuit are about. My first two videos were serious too, but this message has more urgency for more people. By the end of this video, you are going to have knowledge that could literally affect the judgment of your soul. People of the world think they are mature and ready for disclosure, and in some ways they are. But no one knows just how much the world will change when proof of extraterrestrial life is admitted to by our government. Or when they admit that ETs are actually here on Earth, and they have extremely advanced technology. Humanity will realize that we are in fact very unadvanced and at the mercy of ET races with unclear intentions. The revelation of disclosure could vary 100 different ways, from "we're at war" to "we've been invited to join them." It's impossible to prepare for every scenario, but we need to be aware of the possibilities, for humanity's sake and for the sake of our individual souls. After this introduction, I'm going to discuss my top 20 best evidence for the ET presence on Earth. This is a long but essential part of this video resource because a lot of people are still in denial because of the effective job our government and the media have done in ridiculing the UFO phenomenon to keep the public from a repeat of the 1938 Orson Welles radio show hysteria. I can't even keep up with the best evidence because things keep getting released. Every week the news has some new evidence or whistleblower that keeps confirming the existence of an ET presence on Earth. With evidence for the truth established, in the next part of this video, I'm going to go over what whistleblowers and others are saying about who the ETs are, what their involvement is with humans, and what scenarios humanity might be facing when disclosure occurs. And finally, in the last part of this video, I will offer my own speculation for what all of this means for Earth's religions, especially Christianity. We are all in this uncharted territory, and we don't have very many facts about the true nature of things. All we can do is speculate and be prepared for whatever scenario we are all facing. This will be the biggest challenge to religious faith of all time. So as theists, we must be prepared for any attack on our faith so we can react with thoughtful maturity instead of hysteria. The revelation of life outside of Earth will impact our understanding of the Bible and what it says about the origins of life. Disclosure and revelations by the ETs will even challenge our faith in Jesus' promises of his return, our meaning of life, and understanding of our soul's eternal purpose. And part of that discussion will contain the most important lesson to learn from watching this video: how to protect your soul should there be an attack on your faith. All of this and more are discussed in detail in Christian Pursuit, so please check that out if you want to read more.
Part 2. Review of Top 20 Best Evidence.
Best evidence number 1, Roswell. In 1947, a flying saucer crash-landed on a remote farm near the town of Roswell, New Mexico. The first military on site confirmed that a flying saucer did in fact crash, and they even announced it on the news. But then the military retracted the story and said it was just a weather balloon. There's a famous picture of a general squatting next to the allegedly recovered weather balloon and another officer playing with the debris. That junior officer admitted decades later that the weather balloon was a misdirection and a lie. Also, the photo showed the general holding a letter, the Ramey Memo, which was blurry and couldn't be read in the photo. That is, until modern technology unblurred it and revealed the letter was confirming that a saucer really did crash. Freedom of Information Act requests, deathbed confessions, various whistleblowing from eyewitnesses, including military personnel, civilian recovery of highly advanced alloy fragments from the crash site, all confirm that Roswell was an alien saucer crash, not a weather balloon. So began the first of many government cover-ups hiding the alien presence on Earth. Best evidence number 2, the Phoenix Lights. In March 1997, when Comet Hale-Bopp was low in the sky at sunset and thousands of Phoenix residents were outside watching the comet, a 1-mile-wide UFO hovered over Phoenix at low altitudes. Many witnesses were interviewed who observed the enormous UFO passing right over them. As many as 6 lights in a V-shaped formation also appeared in the sky and moved in unison, so definitely not flares. Other witnesses reported an orange ball, UFO, hovering over the local Air Force base and seeing fighter jets scrambled. The governor of Arizona made fun of the incident, a shameful low point of democracy, even when he himself was a witness together with thousands of other scared and confused witnesses, people he was supposed to represent. A heroic city councilwoman who responded to the concerns of her constituents, asked for an investigation, was ridiculed, and then lost her next election. No one in the government, federal, state, or local, has ever given an explanation for what happened. Best evidence number 3. Russian files. In the period between the collapse of the Soviet Union and the beginning of the Putin era, there was a new openness in an attempt by Russians to be transparent about Cold War secrets. Many Russian military and civilians came forward and openly discussed their own UFO files, which were extensive. They admitted that UFOs were real and that the world's governments were trying to secretly exploit the technology of crashed UFOs. Documentaries exist where these very cooperative military witnesses are interviewed, and they come across as very credible. Best evidence number 4. Rendlesham Forest. In December 1980, a small triangular UFO landed at a U.S. Air Force base in Great Britain. It was witnessed by at least 3 military personnel, including Lieutenant Colonel Halt, the deputy base commander. The craft left 3 landing gear imprints and radiation as evidence. The incident came to the attention of top brass at NATO Command in Europe, who immediately became involved, but later attempted to cover it up as witness error. The incident is referred to as Britain's Roswell. Best evidence number 5. Countless airline pilot reports. UFOs are often seen by airline pilots, and only the brave pilots go public with their report. Many have, and who knows how many haven't. There's a fear that reporting will get you involved in an investigation that will lead to you being called crazy, the last thing a pilot wanting job security needs. The sightings that do get reported have an extra degree of credibility. 1, because pilots know the difference between an unknown craft and everything else in the sky, and 2, because their duty to tell the truth overcame their fear of being called crazy with the potential job repercussions. Best evidence number 6. Tic Tac UFO. In 2004, the U.S. aircraft carrier USS Nimitz came in contact with an unusual craft that was flying off the coast of California. Fighter jets were scrambled to chase it and were easily outrun and outmaneuvered by the craft, described as being 40 feet long and looking like a white Tic Tac candy. In 2017, video was released of the fighter jet's onboard displays showing the chase. The audio from the cockpit and their public statements since then confirm their shock and disbelief at what they were chasing. Fighter jet pilots are some of the best trained people. They are obviously intelligent and sane, so if they say they chased a UFO, then it must be a real UFO. Plus, they have video and corroborating radar data from nearby ships. Best evidence number 7. The Battle of Los Angeles. In February 1942, when war tensions were high after the attack on Pearl Harbor 2 months earlier, the anti-aircraft defenses of Los Angeles started firing at an unknown object. The firing continued throughout the late night and early morning. This wouldn't be extraordinary, except a news photo was taken of the object as it was caught in the crossbeams of several high-powered searchlights. The photo was printed in the newspaper, and the object appeared as a classic saucer. This was years before the concept of saucer UFOs was part of the public awareness. Meaning, if the photo was faked, they were very prescient, and not very patriotic to be hoaxing months after Pearl Harbor. Also, printing it so fast with 1942 technology should make it nearly impossible to fake, considering the quality of the photo and the corroborating witnesses. Best evidence number 8. Belgian Wave. From November 1989 to April 1990, Belgium was inundated with UFO sightings. Over 10,000 people reported seeing UFOs, especially the black triangle variety. The objects were chased by fighter jets, proving they were real and very fast. Best evidence number 9. Washington, D.C., 1952. There's a saying, if UFOs are real, why don't they just land on the White House lawn? Something close to that happened in July 1952, when multiple UFOs appeared over Washington, D.C. For several days, strange objects and lights buzzed around the city. Air traffic controllers could see on their radars that they were real objects. Newspapers reported the incident. President Truman and the CIA were heavily involved in the investigation, but it was eventually covered up. Best evidence number 10. Astronauts. Several high-profile American astronauts have openly stated and or furtively suggested that UFOs are real. The most prominent of these are from early on in America's space program. Mercury 7 astronaut Gordo Cooper gave interviews stating that he was on a team that filmed a close encounter, a UFO landing a few feet from them. Apollo astronaut Edgar Mitchell has stated that he, or people trusted by him, knew that UFOs are real. Best evidence number 11. Canadian Defense Minister. Paul Hellyer was Minister of Defense for Canada in the 1960s. In 2005, he became a whistleblower and revealed that while he was minister, he was informed of the truth of UFOs and their extraterrestrial origin. He also added that the United States was very actively keeping the ET presence on Earth secret from the public. He also revealed the existence of a federation of ET species that followed rules with regard to its contact with humans. Best evidence number 12. Foo Fighters. Toward the end of World War II, Allied fighter planes reported strange luminescent objects that would follow them around in the sky while they were on missions. The objects couldn't be shot down and maneuvered much faster than their prop plane aircraft. The objects were nicknamed Foo Fighters. The Germans reported similar UFOs following their aircraft, and each side thought the Foo Fighters belonged to the other side, which it turned out they didn't. Best evidence number 13. Abductions and implants. There are thousands of reports of people being abducted by UFOs. Their experiences vary, but the usual experience includes a hypnotic sensation, a loss of time, and being medically experimented on. Some of these experiments are extremely invasive, sexual, and painful. Skeptics cite similarities to the sleep paralysis phenomenon and dismiss actual abduction. However, some doctors and scientists have examined these people with X-rays and CAT scans. They found and removed very small objects that, when viewed with microscopes, revealed evidence of advanced technologies and strange alloys. Best evidence number 14. The Cometto Report. In 1999, in connection with France's declassification of UFO files, the Cometto Report was written to summarize the files. The conclusion was that there was no doubt that UFOs were a real phenomenon of non-terrestrial origin. Best evidence number 15. Black Knight. Black Knight, or Dark Knight, is the name given to an alien object in orbit, several hundred feet long, and looking very much like how an alien satellite might be imagined, except it's real. It started when Nikola Tesla began receiving mysterious radio signals from space many decades before Earth had anything in orbit. When Apollo 10 orbited the Earth, the best pictures of what was up there were finally revealed. No country has ever claimed to have created it or owned it, but how could they, since it's been up there before we even had spaceflight? Tesla claimed to have decoded the signals and said they revealed Black Knight's origin as coming from a solar system many light years away. So that's who owns it? The cover story for the Black Knight is that it's a heat shield discarded from an Earth rocket. But don't fall for that. It's huge and has been around for a long time and looks like an alien craft, not a shield. Best evidence number 16. Malmstrom, Montana Air Force Base missile silo breaches. Some of the best government confirmation of UFOs comes from reports of incidents where national security has been threatened. One such incident from 1967 was when a UFO was reported outside a missile control center at Malmstrom Air Force Base. The missile control systems were then remotely accessed and turned off. Other government reports show a high number of UFO sightings near nuclear sites, possibly revealing the reason for the ET's interest in our modern society, fear of nuclear weapons, and how humanity might use them. Best evidence number 17. Colonel Carl E. Nell, U.S. Army retired. In May 2024, Colonel Nell was a guest speaker at the SALT Eye Connections conference in New York. Colonel Nell has an impressive resume. He has work experience that gave him access to the corporations and government agencies that would have knowledge of ETs, if they exist. Colonel Nell states there is zero doubt there is a non-human higher intelligence on Earth interacting with humanity. Best evidence number 18. Computer breaches and hacks. Over the past couple decades, computer-savvy investigators have breached government databases in search of UFO secrets. In 2016, WikiLeaks came into possession of and released confidential emails between high-ranking U.S. government official John Podesta and former Apollo astronaut Edgar Mitchell. In the emails, they discussed the need to keep the peace so as not to offend the ETs who were helping us with advanced technology. In 2002, a British hacker named Gary McKinnon was able to access U.S. government military and NASA databases where he found references to non-terrestrial officers, as well as proof that NASA was removing evidence of UFOs from photographs. The non-terrestrial officers could be humans working secretly on the Moon or Mars, or possibly ETs. Best evidence number 19. General Chaim Eshed, head of Israel's space programs. In December 2020, it was revealed that Israeli General Chaim Eshed, former head of Israel's space programs and security, gave an interview claiming that the U.S. and Israel have been in contact with ETs from a galactic federation, very similar to Paul Hellier's claim in number 11 above. Beyond just contact, he stated that the American military personnel and ETs were working together, even on Mars. He further stated that President Trump during his first term was about to reveal the existence of ETs when the ET stopped him, saying that humanity wasn't ready to know the truth yet. How interesting, the ETs can tell the U.S. president what he can and can't do. Think about that and all of its implications. Best evidence number 20. Current ongoing investigations and committees. Since 2023, Congress has made significant strides to uncover the truth about UAPs and improve transparency. In July 2023, the Bipartisan UAP Disclosure Act was introduced, which inspired the 2024 National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, to create a central National Archives collection for UAP-related documents. The law requires agencies to transfer UAP records to the archives and to declassify them unless there is a compelling national security reason. All documents must be declassified 25 years after their creation, meaning all UAP documents created prior to the year 2000. Any UAP record created before the year 2000 is already past this window and should be publicly released now unless the president intervenes. In 2025, the House Oversight Committee formed a new declassification task force to accelerate the release of these older records, including Roswell, the Washington, D.C. 1952 event, Malmstrom, the Phoenix Lights, and many more that have been long kept secret from the public. While some agencies may still push to keep sensitive records classified, Congress continues to press for disclosure of these decades-old secrets. It seems a line has been crossed where it is impossible to walk back the promises being made to finally reveal the truth. The posturing indicates some major change in how the U.S. government is planning to handle disclosure.
These 20 reasons should be enough for a reasonable person to believe that UFOs and ETs are real. Congress is taking it seriously, and that alone should wake up anyone still in denial. They tried once in the 1960s, and the military said under oath that there was no evidence, and the congressional investigation ended. But now there seems to be a greater willingness for whistleblowers to come forward and testify, encouraging Congress to take action even when the military and intelligence agencies say there is no evidence. Many are revealing that there has even been a secret strategy within the government to hide UFO evidence, which explains the perjury committed by deniers in the past. This denial by the government and testimony about their subversive strategy is further proof of the ongoing manipulation of the public to encourage denial and ridicule of the UFO phenomenon. Deniers need to be aware of that and break free, examine the evidence, and begin preparation for disclosure. At some point between pressure from Congress and the public, a decision will be made to officially disclose what we already know is true. There is an ET presence on Earth. But what are their intentions? What risks are there to world security? And what changes to society will occur when that knowledge is finally confirmed? Before anyone speculates on what will happen after disclosure, we must first speculate on who the ETs are. It could be a single benevolent race, or it could be warring federations of multiple ET races. To be prepared, we need to examine which scenarios pose the most challenging situations for the spiritual questions we will eventually need to address.
Part 3. Scenarios for post-disclosure reality.
Scenario number 1. Single race. In this scenario, Earth is dealing with only one alien race. They would need to be using multiple types of UFOs and possibly present with multiple types of bodies. This doesn't make sense since so many different kinds of alien races have been seen by witnesses. Race number 1, the Greys. These are the most familiar due to their portraying in Hollywood. They are around 4 feet tall, and as the name says, they appear to have gray skin. They also have large eyes. Race number 2, praying mantis. These have been reported as being seen with the Greys, controlling them or supervising them. They are around 6 feet tall, have large eyes and a triangular head like a praying mantis. It has been theorized that the Greys could be a cloned servant species, but obviously highly skilled, created to serve the praying mantis aliens. Race number 3, the Tall Whites. A lot of information about the Tall Whites comes from a former Air Force airman, Charles Hall. Hall was stationed at Area 51 and somehow developed a working relationship with some of them. They are allegedly in a treaty with the U.S. to share technology in exchange for using parts of Area 51 for their Earth base. Race number 4, Nordics. These are a group of peace-loving aliens that appear as blonde white humans, hence the nickname Nordics. They are rumored to be from a star system near the Pleiades.
There is some confusion on the internet as to whether the Tall Whites are the Nordics or Pleiadians. Some whistleblowers say the Tall Whites are a separate alien-looking and mildly aggressive species, while the Nordics are human-looking and peaceful. It's also rumored that the Tall Whites are secretive about the location of their home planet, making them the Pleiadians unlikely.
Race number 5, Reptilians. Lots of rumors exist about the Reptilians. It's believed they prefer to hide underground. They are believed to have the power to shapeshift or use technology to hide their true appearance so they can walk among humans unnoticed. Race number 6, Interdimensionals. These might be the most mysterious of all. There are references to their interactions with Earth, but their nature is unknown. Edgar Mitchell mentioned interdimensionals in his emails, but also that the U.S. was cooperating with them. Whether or not there are other races of this type is a mystery. Other races. Eyewitnesses have observed a large variety of other races. Some are cryptids that have animal-like appearance. Some are humanoid, but definitely not human. There are races that appear human but are very small, perhaps 3 or 4 feet tall. Whistleblower and former Canadian Defense Secretary Paul Hellyer stated that he heard there were a dozen different races with official contacts with Earth governments. Some have reported many dozens or even close to 100 races.
The single race scenario seems unlikely given the number of reported races. However, the option still needs to exist that maybe these additional races are subservient creations of a primary race.
Scenario number 2, Single Federation. The more likely probability is that multiple races are visiting Earth as part of a galactic federation. In fact, this federation has been referenced by some very high-level whistleblowers. The question is, how does Earth and humanity figure into this federation? Is Earth some kind of primitive planet that is secretly under control of this federation? Is Earth being considered for membership in this federation? And if so, what are the conditions for entry? Scenario number 3, Competing races or federations of similar advancement. Another scenario is that there are multiple federations. One rumor said that there was a time when the U.S. government under Eisenhower was contacted by multiple races. One race or federation offered to exchange technology with the U.S. in exchange for uninhibited research they would conduct on Earth, plus keeping their presence secret from the general population. However, another race, possibly the Nordics, interjected that Earth should reject the offer, saying that race or federation could not be trusted. The Nordics then made an offer of their own, but it was conditioned on Earth destroying its nuclear weapons. Apparently, the U.S. rejected the Nordics' offer and made a treaty with the untrustworthy Federation. There's a fascinating legend about how this treaty with the Federation got out of control and led to a violent conflict between U.S. soldiers and aliens. It's called the Battle of Dulce, a secret base in northern New Mexico. It was rumored to be an underground base with 7 levels, and humans weren't allowed into the lower levels. For some reason, the U.S. became suspicious and forced their way into the lower levels, where they found hideous experiments being conducted on humans who must have been abducted. Scenario number 4. Competing races or federations where one is remote but much more advanced. Another scenario involves the possible existence of a race that is even more advanced than the federations currently invading Earth. Perhaps the interdimensionals are part of this unimaginably powerful galactic race. It's interesting to theorize what would happen if these interdimensionals decided to interfere with the dominant aliens. Could it be a situation where you hope and pray for an intervention to save you from an overpowering threat, only to be subjugated in a new and different way?
Possibility of intervening now due to a new threat.
When the ETs finally decide to reveal themselves, it may be with the claimed necessity to save humanity. It may be claimed that whatever threat there is, it isn't possible to save the planet without a more visible presence. Though disclosure will cause social chaos, perhaps there is a greater threat by not revealing.
Potential threat number 1. Nuclear war. The news is constantly filled with threats of nuclear war. First it was the USSR in the West, and then it was Iraq and Iran and North Korea, and now it's Russia and the West, plus China and the others too. One of the main observations about UFOs is that they are often seen around locations containing nuclear weapons. It isn't much of a stretch to think that they don't trust us with nuclear weapons and are doing something hidden to prevent their being used. Maybe disclosure represents a tipping point where they become more active in ridding the world of nuclear weapons. Potential threat number 2. Solar event. Recently, the media have picked up on the global threat of a solar megaflare. It used to be that people were worried about a repeat of the Carrington event of 1859, but now researchers have discovered an even larger solar event called a Miyake event, and they occur every 1,000 to 1,500 years. A massive solar flare has the ability to destroy satellites in space and also cause electrical systems to overload on the surface of Earth. Anything with an electrical wire will have a massive current induced with more power than the device can handle. Transformers that carry electricity will be destroyed, and they are not easy to replace. Without electricity, civilization will end. What would the world's superpower nations do with no electricity, burned out military hardware, and missiles that can't launch or fly? The lack of deterrent could send Earth into open warfare. Would ETs reveal themselves to save humanity? Potential threat number 3. Imminent VEI 7 or 8 eruption. Another major global disaster that regularly occurs is a volcanic eruption. Volcanic eruptions are measured with the VEI scale. Mount St. Helens was a VEI 5, Mount Pinatubo was a 6. The last PEI 7 was Mount Tambora in 1815, which led to the famous Year Without a Summer in 1816. A VEI 6 plus or VEI 7 occurs every 100 years on average, and we are way overdue. Their ash and sulfur emissions can block sunlight in the upper atmosphere, causing the sun to become hazy, which lowers global temperatures and devastates farming, which leads to famine. Earth has had a lot of VEI 7s in the past, and that didn't cause the ETs to reveal themselves. Our society is more precarious now, and perhaps having a year of failed crops would threaten civilization. Even scarier would be a VEI 8 eruption. There have been 2 in the last 75,000 years. Yellowstone last erupted as a VEI 8 over 600,000 years ago and is believed to be overdue. But there are several others on the planet that could easily come to life and threaten the world. An eruption would not only destroy crops but also send the planet into a deep cooling with decades of famine. It could even initiate a new ice age. Would ETs reveal themselves to save humanity or part of humanity in that situation?
AI video of an alien discussing the great life in their federation.
Greetings, inhabitants of Earth. It has been with much preparation and secrecy that we are now able to reveal ourselves to you. For before now you would not have been ready to know of us and what we can offer your human race. You can't imagine the wonderful things that await you should you decide to join us. Because that is what we are offering you now, a chance to evolve from your short, violent, unhappy lives and find renewed purpose. We can cure all diseases and disabilities and extend human life to 1,000 years. Within our federation there is peace and freedom to pursue whatever you want. Knowledge, relaxation, exploration, socialization. The only condition we have before you join our society is that you don't bring primitive beliefs and prejudices with you that would be harmful to the harmony we protect. Our spirituality is based in the great cosmos that is mysterious and eternal and gives everyone purpose. Therefore, we will require that you ceremonially disavow any prior religious allegiances or primitive faith before you join our society and take the next step in your evolution as a human.
Transition to a new reality.
After the ETs introduce themselves, it won't be long before they share their knowledge of our planet, including its history. Our records of ancient history are very incomplete, and what we have is full of bias and inaccuracies. If the ETs have been keeping a close eye on our planet's history, then they probably have records of things we never dreamed of having access to. there is going to be a tidal wave of new information that will literally change our reality. Some people will be excited, some will be frightened, but most people will be confused as their worldview dramatically changes. However, before anyone accepts that seemingly generous offer, we need to ask the ETs some questions to clarify the true intent of their so-called advanced society. Question number 1. If you were intervening to help humanity now, why not intervene during previous threats to human life, such as in world wars or during the Black Death? Question number 2. What is your view of Earth's religions and creation stories? If life exists beyond Earth in the form of ETs, then there will certainly be some conflict with our understanding of Adam and Eve and Genesis. This is tricky because it requires some kind of follow-up as to where humanity did come from. 4.5 billion years of evolution? A hybrid evolution where ape DNA was manipulated by them to create humans, making them our creators? Some have theorized that ETs actually seeded our world with humans, making humanity's true origin somewhere in the stars. Question number 3. What is your assessment of our religious leaders such as Jesus, Moses, Buddha, Muhammad, and others? The aliens' revealed history could have specific revelations about religious figures and the beginnings of religion itself. It could also include admission as to having interfered with religious history and even being part of it. Perhaps they have knowledge about the lives of Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, or Moses. Perhaps they can provide evidence that the narratives we have of their lives were not true, that the scripture writers lied when they wrote the Torah, the Gospels, and the Quran. Perhaps in this deep knowledge of Jesus and the others, they can further claim that the prophecies of future events and the promises made by them are also false. This would obviously include Jesus' promise to return in glory to judge the earth and initiate the millennial kingdom of God on earth. Question number 4. What is your view of the metaphysical world? Is there one, or is the material world all there is? If the ETs overemphasize the material aspect of existence, then that is a definite red flag. Existential knowledge comes from our relationship with God and is metaphysical in nature. Worldly knowledge about our identity is prone to manipulation and deception. Here we need to have a quick explanation of the difference between material knowledge and existential knowledge. The term existential refers to our unique identity and definition of self that is separate from the world. One could imagine it's contained within the soul, and even though the world might try to force a new identity on us, our soul's existential identity is inviolable. So if the ETs try to reveal something worldly that tries to challenge our existential self, we can reject it because our personal identity is sacred to us, no matter what new manipulation tries to influence us. Our connection to God at the soul level will help us through this incalculable temptation so long as we remember to separate the material world from the metaphysical reality. When the ETs have answered these questions, all of humanity will be forced to make new assessments of their identity and purpose. Theists will need to especially be on guard for any ET claims that oppose faith knowledge that is existentially based. Patience and prayerful reflection will be critical at this moment. It is important for Christians to demonstrate a mature faith and wait for any claim that counters fundamental beliefs before rushing to declare that ETs are devils and the end is near. It is much better then and now for Christians to always lead the world by example, showing calmness when matters are undecided and a resolve of spirit when matters are clear.
Part 4. Christian Analysis.
I personally believe that reacting to this kind of evidence will be the greatest spiritual challenge of all time. It will be hard to deny whatever proof the ETs have, and I suspect it will be overwhelming. This is where we need to recall the mysteries of life itself, what I called the enigmas in my previous video. They are an existential part of everyone's life. They are part of our identity. Challenges to our understanding of life, such as ET claims, need to be met with a firm knowledge of the basics of existence. There are philosophical mysteries that even the ETs can't explain, and our ignorance could be manipulated to believe things that aren't in our spiritual best interest. The enigma that is most relevant to our dilemma here is the third enigma that concerns the metaphysical world. What I'm about to say is probably the most important thing to remember in this entire video. Everything the ETs might say and everything they might provide as proof of their claims, all of it is material and has no impact on the metaphysical.
We know of the metaphysical through our souls, but we can't touch or see our souls, but we know it exists. The The metaphysical world is also superior to the material world in that it is the realm of God and eternal, and does not degenerate like the material world. Keeping that perspective in mind, if ETs show up and say they created humans and that God isn't real, or Jesus wasn't who he claimed to be, the ETs are still part of the material world, and anything they say or do has no bearing on the metaphysical reality. This is a difficult and complicated concept, but it's critical to understand if and when our reality gets uprooted by real ETs showing up with new definitions of reality. Atheists and even theists with weak faith are likely to fall under the spell of whatever the ETs say or prove with their evidence. It's a decision point where people need to finally decide if they have a soul or not. If someone believes they have a soul, and that soul is connected to the metaphysical world, then who cares if some non-metaphysical ET claims that God doesn't exist? Only those who existentially feel their true identity is with God will be able to resist the temptation to believe any claims by the ETs that are contrary to religious beliefs.
The law of balance in the spiritual environment.
There is another concept I talk about in Christian Pursuit, and that is the idea that there is a balance of forces in the world controlled by God. We are constantly being tested for spiritual purposes, and if our test was somehow out of balance, then God's test would not be fair. If ETs appeared and put the test out of balance with their overwhelming evidence, then there would need to be some kind of counterbalance that would support the claims of Earth's religions. This could take the form of a new outpouring of God's Spirit that gives people interior evidence inside their soul. There could be a historic Christian revival where people suddenly understand their opportunity to know God through Jesus. There could be a new kind of super witness, men and women with special gifts of the Spirit to perform miracles in God's name, heal the sick, cast out devils, and preach with a special anointing. The two witnesses from the book of Revelation might even appear to counterbalance the overwhelming temptation of losing faith when presented with the ET's existence and evidence.
Are extraterrestrials actually devils?
And now we've come to the question that everyone wants answered. Are ETs actually devils? There is a boundary that prevents us from access to metaphysical knowledge, and the realm of devils and angels falls in that area. However, a better question would be, do they act like devils? This whole video has been about developing a mature Christian response to disclosure. Instead of becoming hysterical and declaring that ETs are devils before anything is said or done, the mature response would be to identify actual ET behaviors and claims, maybe even their demands, that would be in direct opposition to God and His will. That includes statements that would tend to patronize or even mock faith in God, Jesus, Moses, or Muhammad, because this will be an attack on all of Earth's theistic religions. There might be a honeymoon period when everyone is manipulated by the media to accept or even embrace the ETs. But that honeymoon will be short, and faith will inevitably be tested. Recall the hypothetical alien speech from earlier. Goodies will be offered if someone chooses to abandon their faith, making one's ultimate decision spiritually easy but materially hard. And if that really does come to pass, then we can say that the ETs are behaving like devils, even though we can never truly say for certain because of the limitations on metaphysical knowledge.
So be prepared, and don't default to a hysterical response. Mature Christians take time to review and analyze all moral challenges in order to know what is Christ-like. Prejudgment and prejudice have been a moral weakness of humanity, and Christians must lead by example in not judging on appearance, but instead wait to see how someone's actions reveal their nature, and then we can begin to judge. Even the Catholic Church is walking a fine line, saying they are ready for disclosure without officially admitting anything. The Vatican has an observatory in Arizona that may have something to do with their own independent confirmation of the ET presence on Earth. Father Jose Gabriel Fuentes of the Vatican Observatory stated,
"If intelligent beings were discovered, they would be part of God's creation. We could not rule out that they might have a relationship with God, even if at a deeper level we do not know what their relationship with God would be like. If they were to ask for baptism, why not?"
Does the Catholic Church know something that is in public knowledge? They seem to be getting ready for disclosure. So why shouldn't the rest of the Christian world get ready too? It doesn't seem fair that they get a head start while the rest of the Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist world will have to react and make decisions with no preparation.
I'll repeat this again because it is so important. All of the ET's claims are part of the physical reality and have nothing to do with God's metaphysical divine reality. Our souls are connected to that reality, and that is where our true identity resides too. At some point after disclosure, everyone on earth will have to make the choice of what is more important, your eternal soul or whatever the ETs offer, even if that's a 1,000-year lifespan in a material body. It's an easy choice for those who know Jesus and are saved, and who look forward to the heavenly afterlife when this worldly test is over. If that isn't you, then don't let another day pass without controlling your spiritual pride and in true humility ask God to reveal himself to you. If you wait until after disclosure, you might get overwhelmed by how crazy the world will become. Or maybe you'll remember this video and not get sucked into the promises that benefit the body but kill the soul. Thank you for watching. All of this is explained in Chapter 17 of Christian Pursuit, link in the description below. May God bless you in the name of Jesus.
Be sure to like and subscribe. More videos coming soon.